Perestroika and Glasnost, 1985 to 1991, A Complete History. Overview. Perestroika and Glasnost were two key policies implemented by Mikhail Gorbachev, the leader of the Soviet Union, during the late 1980s. These policies aimed to reform the political, economic, and social structures of the Soviet Union, but they also contributed to its eventual collapse. They were central to the transformation of Soviet society and played a critical role in the ending of the Cold War. 1. Background to Perestroika and Glasnost. By the time Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in 1985, the Soviet Union was in deep economic and political crisis. The system was marked by stagnation, corruption, and inefficiency. The leadership had been dominated by aging figures like Leonid Brezhnev, 1964 to 1982, who presided over a period of stability, but also growing economic problems. The Soviet system was also increasingly out of step with the rest of the world. In response, Gorbachev introduced reforms that aimed to revitalize the Soviet system rather than replace it entirely. 2. Glasnost, the policy of openness, 1985 to 1991. Definition. Glasnost is a Russian word that translates to openness, or transparency. It referred to Gorbachev's initiative to increase freedom of expression, open up the media, and allow for more public discussion about the issues facing the Soviet Union. Key aspects of Glasnost. Freedom of speech and press. Glasnost allowed for greater freedom of expression, encouraging a more open media environment. Censorship of the press was relaxed, and newspapers and television started to openly discuss social issues, political corruption, and past Soviet mistakes. Revealing the past, one of the most significant outcomes of Glasnost was the acknowledgement of past Soviet crimes, including Stalin's purges, forced collectivization, and the repression of various ethnic groups. These revelations shocked many Soviets, as the Soviet regime had long buried these truths. Political debate and public discourse. Glasnost also encouraged political debate and the formation of new political movements and organizations, including some that criticized the Communist Party. This created a new political space for previously suppressed voices. Impact on society. While Glasnost opened up Soviet society to more discussion and debate, it also unleashed frustration and dissatisfaction with the system. People began to criticize not only past Soviet policies, but also the failures of the current government. 3. Perestroika. Economic and political restructuring, 1985 to 1991. Definition. Perestroika means restructuring in Russian, referring to Gorbachev's economic and political reforms aimed at revitalizing the Soviet system. Key aspects of Perestroika. Economic reforms. Gorbachev introduced several reforms to shift from a command economy to a more market-oriented system. This included decentralizing control over industries and allowing local managers and workers more decision-making power. There was also an attempt to introduce some elements of private enterprise and market mechanisms, though full capitalist reforms were never implemented. Glasnost and Perestroika's interconnection. Glasnost helped make Perestroika more successful, as it gave people the opportunity to debate and criticize the economy openly. However, the economic reforms often led to shortages and discontent, as the Soviet economy was not prepared for such changes. Political reforms. Perestroika also included efforts to reform the political system. In 1989, the Soviet Union held its first semi-free elections, and the newly elected parliament, the Congress of People's Deputies, began to play a more active role. Gorbachev also reduced the Communist Party's monopoly on political power and tried to make the government more responsive to public concerns. Decentralization of power. Local governments and ministries were given more autonomy under Perestroika, breaking from the highly centralized control that had characterized the Soviet Union under previous leaders.